Hello, and welcome to the Comedian's Paradise. This is the podcast where we speak to mavericks, innovators, and complete nutters in the entertainment world. The people that have stories, life lessons, things that will shock us, inspire us, and that will intrigue us. Now, today's guest is basically imagine what would happen if Del Boy became a comedian. Imagine, and he taught in this, and like Del Boy, he stopped like making money from markets and decided to become a teacher, but also he decided to become a comedian on the UK comedy circuit. This man is signed. He's a man who brings comedy from a very different angle than a lot of people. He's a man who has recently come from doing a keynote speaker, but also doing comedy in it as well. So he makes serious topics funny. He is a man who's doing spots for the Comedy Store, many different clubs across the UK, and he is emerging in many of the comedy clubs in London. Please welcome Mark Nicholas.
Hello.
How
Hi.
are
So
we
it's,
doing?
it's so weird when you introduce me. It's like I'm about to go on stage and like, where's the applause? But it's fun. I'm joking. I don't have that much of an ego. Don't worry.
So how big is it, Mark? No, how big is the ego?
I mean, to be honest, I thought this was going to go Louis C.K. there for a moment, but no. The ego's got a bit bigger since the more I go into the comedy and things like that. Yeah, it kind of happens when you start doing like bigger clubs as well, and you do start to get a little big headed. But it's important to keep grounded because you know. The big clubs are not as often as I'd like them to be, but you need to keep grounded to try and keep working the circuit. So I'm trying to keep grounded, but every time I get off in a really lovely spot, I'm like, oh yes, I'm brilliant. And then it's like, oh God, no, I have one bad gig or something, and then it'll be like, no, I'm terrible. Literally, there's no in between. I'm either really amazed. I always think I'm really amazing or really shit. I don't. I mean, probably most of the time I'm middle of the road, but my head goes all over the place. But yeah, that's what happens when you have a comedian with mental health problems. So yay.
But you're doing sort of, is it 10 spots or 5 spots for the store now?
Oh,
10 spots.
at the moment it's 5 spots. I mean, it was hard enough to get the 5 spot. Well, I did it through, King Kong, and now I'm doing regular 5 spots there. And they want to push me to a 10, but they like me enough to keep inviting me back. But it's just like your rhythm needs to be smoother for us to get to a 10, which I get because I'm used to doing extended spots. When I'm suddenly asked to do a 5, I haven't done 5s in years. But it's like the competition 5, they call it. So, you have to be short, sharp, jokes have to come quick, and that's it. You can't really banter with the audience, and sometimes I'm used to bantering with the audience. You just have to be right, nail every joke for the 5 minutes, and right, okay, then we'll move you up to a 10. And it's actually harder than a lot of people think because the longer you go on for, the more material you have, and so when you get there and you're like, oh crap, I've got to do 5 minutes. What are my best 5? I don't know because I write new stuff all the time.
Do you challenge yourself and try and work with I hear that Louis C.K. used to do this thing where he would write his new joke at the start of his set, like to challenge himself. Do you do that? Like you deliberately come up with a new opener each month or so?
Well, no, but I think I am going to start doing that as well because I'd like to do new openers. I'd like to introduce myself differently because I've had one main opener for a year or 2, but I'd like to try and change that. I think it's quite a good idea, actually. I think it's quite a good challenge to set yourself. What I do, I slip the new jokes in the set, and then I phase out the old jokes, and that's how I get new sets. So I gradually bring new jokes into it, and then over the next few months, I'll have a new set. But yeah.
Do you find that you sometimes enjoy like when you've given the old stuff a bit of a break for a while, do you find that you enjoy it when you bring it back?
Yeah, because say if the new stuff isn't landing, you always can pull the old stuff out of the hat. Um, and I'm just talking about my penis. No, I'm joking. Yeah, no, I'm not going to go see cock joke already. Like that's how low I've set this standard. Um, but no, so no, it's I pull the old stuff out of the hat. Like if the new stuff isn't going so well, like to just to bring the audience back, you know. But if the new stuff is going really well, I'll just continue doing it. So, but yeah, it is nice every now and then when you bring a golden oldie back. But the thing is, audience don't know what your new stuff is and what your old stuff is either. I mean, sometimes you can tell, but I think the biggest, most annoying thing, and I've done this sometimes, is when an act does a joke, it doesn't add, oh, sorry, that was new. The audience doesn't know what's old and what's new. The best thing to do is do your joke. If you don't get laughs, just move on, or make a joke that it was a bad joke. But I do it sometimes. Oh, sorry, that was new. They don't know. They don't know what's new and what's old. Unless you're a TV name, they're not going to know what your jokes are. So yeah.
Do, what so do you try and set yourself like a goal for every month to write a new joke? Like you seem from what I've heard already, like you're quite a prolific joke writer in like building new stuff up and writing stuff.
I mean, it's. I think if I have an idea, I run with it. I don't really set myself goals in terms of if I have an idea, and normally I'm maybe once a week or every couple of weeks or something will happen at a gig. I thought, oh, that was quite funny. I'll add that to my set. So I'll just build on my experience and yeah, just like okay. For instance, there was I asked an audience member what they thought autism was, and someone just said numbers, and so now I've literally they just said, "Oh, it's numbers." And it's just like, okay, well, what numbers? Prime numbers? And then I start listing all the prime numbers, and it's just like, yeah, just to really mess with them. But yeah, I'm trying to write a joke out of that. Um, and then what I'll do, I'll go. I was diagnosed with autism when I was 11. I was in my prime, and it's a really it's such a corny throwaway joke. But so that's what I mean. Things will happen, and that will spark a joke in my head. So experiences happen, and then that enables me to write jokes. So yeah,
And do you before you go on stage when you're like developing a joke, do you do this like thing where you spend people say some comedians do the Pomodoro technique where uh they time themselves to 20 minutes and they write down as many ideas as they can and then they leave it and they do that every day to try and build bits up and then they take it to the stage. Are you or do you just write down random ideas just as a fun exercise and whatever comes to you on stage comes?
yeah. Basically, I think I'm what I work more with the latter. I mean, maybe I should set myself a problem is if I want to. It's really annoying if I try to sit down and write. Nothing comes to me, but so I'll be just sitting having a cup of tea, watching TV. Suddenly, an idea will come to my head. I'll get my laptop out and I'll type. So for me, it's more spontaneous. Or what I do, this is why I quite like MCing as well, because actually you can get ideas by MCing, by doing crowd work, by finding out what people think about things and formulating jokes around that. So
Ah,
that's always a good technique to do. That's why I would say to any comic, like MC, compare sometimes, even if you don't want to MC as a thing, it actually helps you develop your stage presence, your crowd work, and it can help you write your jokes as well. So yeah,
one of the things that I found sometimes running a night is like acts will ask me to if they could MC and this and that. It does help to do that, like, but I as I'm running a night, I like to MC a lot as well. You know, like
yeah,
I'm
of
the runner and
course.
I like to take care of the baby and make sure it's good. One of
Yeah,
the things I think acts should do so they can get their much MCing time they want is to actually run a night and do it. Because if
yeah,
you're asking
exactly.
someone else to ask the MC, you know, maybe you'll get one MC spot a month or like maybe a couple a year. that's not really enough for you to get better at emceeing. Whilst if
Well,
you
yeah,
run your own gig, you could do one every week, or you could do it at least maybe 30, 40 times a year, and you'll learn so much more times in terms of emceeing than
well,
waiting for
that's
someone else to give you that MC spot.
no, I agree because that's how I started emceeing. I started my own night, and from there, I was like, every now and then, if there was a guest MC spot somewhere, I would be like, yeah, I'll apply for it or something. But I won't say expect other
Yeah,
nights to give me MC spots all the time. I understand that, like you said, it's your baby. Like with my night, I'll only allow sort of a guest MC to come on if it's a themes night. Like, say if it's an all women's bill, I'll have a women, like it's Women's History Month, I'll do a theme around that, and I'll have a female MC and all women lineup. So that's, or if it's LGBT month or something, like every now and if it's a themes month that I think I can get acts with a certain identity, then I'll have all those acts, including the MC that fits that. But most of the time, it's me MCing. But yeah, so actually, yeah, I think you're right. I think if acts do want MC experience, starting your own night is a good way to do it.
yeah. I think it's probably the to get the amount of emceeing you want. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, you were talking before the podcast, and like I've spoken to you a couple of times on the circuit and seen you here and there. But I found out just talking to before the podcast, you are a big fan of like pie and mash and jelly eels, and you have a bit, Mark Nichols is a bit of a, you've seen Only Way is Essex, based on Mark Nicholas.
Well,
No,
it's just
it's
like
not.
I did this joke once because I live near a place called Gants Hill. I, I I did this joke that I was the best straight white male comedian in Gants Hill, right? And the idea is I was the only one, but then I found out something like Russell Cain's from Gants Hill or something, and I was like, oh shit, he's going to be on to me. And I know Russell Cain is much better than I am, but I thought there was no other kind of. Of course, Russell Kane is proper Essex. If you ever listen to Russell Kane, he's proper Essex. But I had that East London Essex twang, bit of Walthamstow, bit of Ganshill, bit mix and mash, pie mash we were talking about. Yeah, I like to mix it up really. But the pie and mash thing, I mean, when he said it, he like, oh, I'm a massive fan of jelly deals. Oh, jelly deals is like it was a fetish or something. No, like I really do not. My grandparents used to like serve jelly deals at family events, and it was just there. Like I wasn't like, oh my god, my favorite jelly deals. Most kids, it's apple pie and cakes. Me, look at that salt and vinegary bitter taste. Oh, it's lovely. But no, I wasn't like that at all. It was just there. But the pie and mash I do like because yeah, pie and mash is very especially in the winter, it warms you up a bit. But yeah, it's good. I'd recommend pie mash to anyone.
But the thing that's annoying about a lot of pies that I see in restaurants, or that a lot of it's all sort of pre-made and ready-made. It's not like made in the restaurant. It's like they've ordered it from somewhere and then they cook it with something. That's a bit annoying because it's like, I'm sure it's much better if it's actually made properly rather than like,
Oh yeah, like definitely. Like I don't like when my nan used to do pie and mash as like I used to go around there, and it was lovely because it was pastry, it was homemade, and she used to get decent cuts of beef as well to put in it, and the way she did the mash was great, and yeah, and it was always lovely. Like your nan's East End nan cooking incredible. Like, yeah, absolutely. And bit of gravy as well, lovely. See, this is the thing. This is where there's the North and South crossover, actually.
oh,
Like, this is where, like, the Northerners love gravy and everything. Actually, Southerners do like a bit of gravy as well. And I have to admit, one of the Northern things I've picked up was gravy and chips. I love gravy on chips, and it makes sense as well because you put gravy on mash, and chips is basically mash. So why not? So
yeah,
yeah,
why not?
yeah.
I've had
Yeah.
curry and chips, but it's not. I've had a little. Yeah, I've had that as well. It's not too bad, but they put too much gravy on, so and it been soggy. I think just a little bit, but you want the crunch of the chips as well.
Yeah, you don't want it to be literally like sagging as you pick it up. It's a bit, yeah, I get what you mean by that. Sometimes they just do. Actually, KFC does this. They have a little pot of
Oh yeah.
gravy, and then you dip it in that, and that's actually really. Oh, I dip the chicken in that or
Oh,
something. It's actually really nice. Me talking up KFC. See, Comedians Paradise, sponsored by KFC and East End Pie and Chips.
of
That's what we're
course.
going with.
So
There we go. We'll
that's
get loads of
the
pie
best.
and mash sponsors coming. You'll be flooded.
But yeah, that might be a new business plan, Mark. I'll ask some of them local to me.
the
Oh, imagine the pie and mash podcast.
pie, that's a wicked name for a podcast. The Pie and Mash Podcast. PMP, Pie and Mash Podcast. That's brilliant. That's a great little acronym right there.
Oh yeah, it could be.
You'd
What
have
we're
the
just
only Fools team.
yes. We visit pie and mash in the UK. What? So, Roy, what makes your pie and mash better? Oh, Sally,
Yeah.
what? We're going to now another pie and mash shop in North London. What makes your pie and mash better?
Is that all we can do pie and mash reviews? Yeah, there we go. We can have people around the country reviewing pie and mash, and that could be the podcast.
That would be interesting. But like,
It would be.
let's not get sidetracked too much with food.
No,
now,
let's not.
now, how has your sort of background shaped who you are and like shaped your sort of comedy? Because you have quite an interesting background, obviously, like your East End, like a bit of Essex. Of course, you have a bit of autism. They are.
Thrown into the mix, bit of autism, bit of Essex.
I don't know how else to say, but yeah,
I mean,
together.
it was a certainly interesting background I have, like growing up. Like I also have, I have an identical twin and two older brothers, so there's four boys, four of us. And the thing is, we've always grown up like following comedy and sort of comedians and like grown up with certain comedy shows like Blackadder and Monty Python and
Yeah.
things like that, and different sketch shows and like so and different stand-ups. Like we used to, like me and my brothers when we were teenagers used to go to backyard comedy club on a regular basis just to watch comedy. And it was brilliant. It was like there was emerging comics that weren't quite TV level yet, but were like on the cusp, and it was quite mad. Like couple of months ago, I was performing at backyard, and it felt like a quite strange, nice little circle. But I've always grown up loving comedy and things like that. So me and my brothers have a very good sense of humour. So quite a dark sense of humour as well. So I think it's and like with the autism as well, like I don't have a filter, so I'll just say things that come to my head. And sometimes those things will be funny, and sometimes those things will be offensive, and sometimes it'll be both. So that's how I bring it together. But yeah, and like my older brother, who's the middle one, he's an actor as well. So performing has always been in my family. Like it's a thing that couple of us do in the family. Not everyone, not all of us, but just a couple of us do. But it's there. So,
Okay.
but yeah, that's sort of in a nutshell my background and how it shaped my comedy. Yeah.
But did you break each other's balls? Like, did you like take the piss out of each other, or did like in terms of like comedy? You mentioned that you're quite a no filter, but when you're growing up, what was the background that created your sense of humor and style?
Oh, I mean, okay. So things. I'll give you an example. If you've ever seen The Office, the English version of The Office, right? There's a scene in it that me and my brothers kind of play on a bit. It's like, so there's a scene in it where Tim phones Gareth and just says cock down the phone. And so what we would do is phone each other up and just say cock and then hang up. And then, then it got a bit bizarre. So I got a new laptop for my 18th birthday and I pressed it on and big screensaver just saying cock. And And it was just an ongoing joke, so we could see if we could up each other. And then the best thing I did is that I met Charlie Brooker at a signing when he was signing one of his books he wrote, and I said, "Sorry, can you just call my brother a cock?" And he was like, "What? Just can you sign it, calling him a cock?" And then he opened the book, and it was Charlie Brooker calling Ryan a cock, basically. "Hi Ryan, you're a cock," and I think that's the highest level we've got to with that. I don't think anyone's got higher than that, but we will try and challenge each other. Or I literally got in the post a couple of months ago for my brother Daniel, cock flavored soup. You can get it; it's chicken flavored soup, but it's called cock flavored soup. so, so that's the sort of little pranks. That's what we would do. That sort of thing. So we'd see something on a comedy sitcom, and we would try and almost act it out in a way and just have a bit of fun with it. So things like that, like little pranks we used to do on each other, So yeah, we'd always have a laugh. We'd always make jokes and yeah. So yeah.
So with that, so you're a bit of a prankster, a bit like Troll Station, but how is it? And with autism, how has it shaped like your comedy? Because from what I see of you, like I know that you're quite a sharp one-liner, you're quite a good joke writer. Like you and your missus are quite really good with the.
Boom, boom, boom. Well, the thing is, this is as well as my upbringing. My uncle was always one to do dad jokes, so silly little one-liners like what's Bob Marley's favourite donut filling, jamming. That really sort of bad dad jokes, but so I grew up with a lot of dad jokes as well. So I just think I think it's shaped me in terms of the experiences I've had writing material it comes to me quite naturally because I had we had a lot of fun growing up. We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of laughs. So the experiences I have, I like to talk about on stage as well. But with the autism, that was quite difficult growing up. But I find the humour in that. Genuinely, when I was younger, I used to smear feces on the wall, right? Because there's a sensory thing, the autistic thing. And then, as I say on stage, yeah, I got really bored during lockdown. So I try and make a joke about that. I try and go, oh, yeah, this is what I did when I was younger, actually. And so I think some of the more traumatizing things that happened to me when I was younger, I try and make jokes out of it. I told you I had no filter. Like everyone says, someone with a disability who's performing is inspiring. I don't think my mum thought I was inspiring when I guessed her friend's age by counting her wrinkles out loud. I I did that. I did. I genuinely did that. So it's like I wasn't very inspiring, guys. And when they do, people with disabilities inspiring. No, we're pain in the asses. Our parents have to rein in a bit sometimes. But so yeah, I think it's a lot of things really. I can't really go into too many specifics, but yeah, just my whole life is. I just I don't care what I say on stage because it's almost like therapy for me as well. I had a bit of a difficult upbringing, but yeah, on stage it really just helps get it all out there. But yeah,
Hmm. Uh, Sometimes, do you feel when you're on stage and talk about dark personal stuff, like because there's pressure and because it's uncomfortable, do you find sometimes you ad lib some really good bits because you're uncomfortable, the audience is uncomfortable, so you're trying to find like a punchline to try and make it comfortable for everyone there to ease the tension?
yeah. So it's so for instance, I'll give you an example. So when my dad passed away, I dealt with that in a very weird way. I went traveling off to Vietnam and I actually did a bit of comedy out there. That's how I started. But when my dad died, I talk about it on stage, and I go, he never got to see me perform stand-up comedy. I'm sure he'd be looking at me, laughing, looking up at me, and then I look down as if to suggest my dad's in hell, and I go, "You all right, Dad? How's Prince Philip?" So it's like
Well,
I try and find the funnies in that. And also, my dad was a bit of an old school, bit of a racist as well, a bit like Prince Philip. But that was a generational thing. I don't judge him too harshly on that because, but yeah. So I try and say something a bit messed up, bit dark about a subject. I'm grieving, but you got to find the funnies in it. Like you
yeah,
got to look, you got to look at, when celebrities die, the first thing I do is I get a joke. That's how I find out a celebrity has died. Someone will send me a joke. That's how we deal with it in Britain. That's how we deal with death in Britain. We make a joke of it. So it's a way of dealing with grief. Maybe it's not the most healthiest way, but it's the way we do it.
hmm,
But yeah,
yeah, yeah. It's you have to make things less bad than to make things cope with things. It's a coping mechanism. You feel?
yeah. Oh no, absolutely. It's definitely cope. I'm not saying that should be the only coping mechanism. Like I've had a lot of therapy, um, but like most comedians have as well. It's funny when you talk about like when I talk about my night, I go, and it's a night for comedians with mental health conditions. So that's every comedian you ever see because we've been through stuff. Like comedians are very messed up people. Or good comedians anyway, because they've lived the most interesting lives. It is definitely a coping mechanism. It's not the only way you should cope, though. Like you should do things like switch off from comedy, go and find another hobby that's nice as well, and spend time with your close ones and get help if you need it. But yeah, like it can help. Comedy can definitely help. Being on stage takes you away from things for a bit.
Yeah, comedy is a quite what's it called? What's the word of it? Oh yes, yeah, you are right, definitely right about that. I agree with you in terms of like if you don't have the faults or the quirks, they're often what make people funnier. That makes, as you say, yeah, like Mr. Bean, his stupidness and like Ronan Atkinson's like funny
Yeah,
face and the fact that he couldn't speak for a while, and his then you got the what's his name? Leslie Nielsen, the Canadian guy. He looked
yeah.
incredibly stupid, but that's what made him funny when he did those daft things. And you
I
got
was, yeah, I was like Robin Williams as well. Like just the impressions, things he would dart across. If you ever seen Robin Williams on stage, incredibly messed up person, like bipolar, lots of manic depression stuff, but on stage, incredibly powerful performer. Just dart from one thing to the next was amazing. But yeah, sorry I interrupted you. I do apologise.
that's it. We're ending the podcast.
That's it. I'm done. I've been cancelled. Damn it. I knew that would happen one day.
But it's yeah, it is. But it's yeah. I see some of the great comics, the really good comics. They're not famous, not pro or anything, but like Joseph Murphy has quite a lot of quirks. He's very funny, very good at improvising.
Yeah.
Uh,
With like
Gats,
Stephen Catlin as well, like another one who's does a lot of clowning around. Like he like last night I saw him at a gig and he was in a bee costume. And I'm not going to say his jokes. I don't want to ruin his set, but it was brilliant. It was, yeah. Although the quirkiest comedians are the best ones, I think.
I don't know if what Stephen Cat, what he's not taking official sort of a clowning sort of. I'm not sure if he had course or what he's done. It is creative and it's out there, and like when people love what he does, he's brilliant. But I don't know if it is clowning. I'm not too sure if because I'm not too sure if it is. People often misunderstand clowning. It's a bit.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure if what he does. It's more sort of character comedy in a way. I feel rather than
Yeah,
pure
actually
clowning.
more character comedy, maybe bits surreal. But yeah, I know what you mean. Clowning's quite specific, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, it's more like you play with the audience and you have an idea and it's something
Yeah.
that's unformed and like you're the idiot on stage. Like and you find something stupid and then like you have an idea, it goes completely wrong, and that ends up being the funny bit. There's so many different definitions in clowning, but from what I see, it's what I've done when I've done the clowning. It's where you've had an idea, you expect it to go one way, but it ends up going completely another way. It ends up
Yeah,
being funny, and you keep repeating that pattern and pattern to make it funny.
exactly. Yeah, definitely, definitely.
But yeah, I'm not too sure if what Stephen Catling is clowning. He would have liked me for saying it, but as someone who's studied clown and does clowning and seen a few other clowns, it's good what he does, but I'm not too sure if I will classify that as proper clowning per
Like
se.
maybe like Elf Lions is probably more clowning. Like if you've ever seen Elf Lions.
I've not seen her like perform on stage, so I'm not too sure. I mean, I remember watching a video of her doing. She does teach clown as well. I do remember
Does, yeah.
watching a video of her doing. Yeah, no, maybe yeah, towards. But then again, that came across. I haven't seen her, so I can't really say. There
So
was a video I saw that was. It felt.
she did a parody one woman show of Swan Lake where she was getting into different costumes and things like that, and it was wonderful. It was brilliant, but it was piss take. It was a parody, but it was yeah. I would describe what she does as clowning, but then yeah, I'd highly
Yeah.
recommend that scene. If that's what, if that's
Okay.
you like that, then definitely go see her.
Yeah, I definitely want to see her. I took a what's it called a lesson with her in terms of like movement and all of that. But
Yeah,
yeah, lovely, lovely girl. But I've never. Yeah, I will. That's one of the things I will do at some point. Now, yeah, but yeah, definitely the quirks of what I've seen sometimes. Yeah, the people who are the funniest off stage are people with big quirks, rather than people that are too polished and normal looking and too squeaky clean.
yeah.
They can sometimes they can be funny on stage, but off stage, the ones that are too squeaky clean and too normal and regular aren't as interesting.
Yeah, yeah, like mate, yeah, I would say so. I think I'm more drawn towards uh, the bizarre comics, the ones who are a bit mental on stage and actually turns out off stage as well. Um, but no, in a nice way, in an absolutely lovely way. But they're also, I often find the ones that have the most quirks are also one of the nicest people off stage, like actually more humble than you'd expect. Like I'll give you an example. John Robertson, he does the dark room, and he can get up on stage and improv for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Incredible, totally crazy on stage. Absolutely. And you think he all that high energy, he's completely on it all the time. But when he's off stage, he's actually really down to earth and a really like sweet, lovely guy. Because I think that's his outlet. But I think he's more down to earth. Whereas I've seen I've seen the more, as you said, the clean, polished comedians who have the certain jokes, um, totally in their own heads off stage, won't give you the time of day. So it's yeah, I totally agree that there's that style. The quirky ones, after the ones that actually off stage are a bit more like yeah, you can talk to and yeah,
Ah, there's what you say again. Yes, because they're being more themselves, whilst because the squeaky cleans have so used to putting so many layers up and not being themselves,
yeah,
part of them feels like they're trying to appease other people rather than being what they truly are. And when it gets
definitely.
too many stages where you're putting all these masks on, trying to people please, trying to do this and that, you don't even know what you are anymore.
Yeah, and I think that's the one danger of comedy sometimes. I think that's why you need that balance between your comedy life and just your personal life, really. Um, try and separate those two. Because, I mean, obviously, I love comedy. I'd never give it up. At the moment, I'm really enjoying it. But, like, I certainly remember at one point I needed a break from it because I was gigging every day, and then um, I had a big spot at the so one of my biggest gigs was at the Glee Club in Nottingham, and it was my agency did the showcase, and problem is I was so nervous about that performance. I've been performing every day to prepare for it, and then when it came to the actual day, I'd lost my voice, And I remember variety teachers giving me loads of lozenges and things like that just to help make my voice all right. I was like, okay. And I tried and did my set, but I just wasn't anywhere near what my best was. So my agent told me that, and she actually said to me, you need to take a break from it a little bit. And then when you come back to it, don't do it every day. I know there is a temptation to do comedy every single day, but you burn out and you burn out quickly. And that's when your performance starts to suffer. So I'll do 2-3 gigs a week and I'll be happy with that.
Hmm.
That will give me enough time to perform on stage and things like that. And to do my best on stage. But gigging every day, I get why acts do it. But for me, it's like when you're trying to polish a set too much, you end up making it worse.
Hmm.
So it's actually good to do it 2-3 times a week and double up as well. Like when you are doing gigs, try and do a couple of gigs in the night. You know, that's what the best pros do. But to do it every day and every single night, I mean, when you're on tour, it's a bit different. You don't have much of a choice, but yeah, doing it full on like that, comedy being the only thing you're going about you could really limit you, and it can, and actually, if you get too invested into it to a point where you're obsessed, it can drive you crazy, and you do burn out. There is burnout. There's comedy burnout. It happens all the time, and it happens more than people think.
Now, speaking
Sorry, I
about
went off on a tangent there.
no, that to extent, yeah, I think that's yeah, that is something to consider. Now, one of the things that I find quite interesting is there are a lot of comedians with autism in comedy, lots. One of
Yeah,
the things that I found quite um, one thing that is always been quite funny and thing that maybe you must probably get annoyed with is the misconceptions of autism.
yeah,
Now, what's it called? I don't, I'm a bit quirky and I'm a bit, what's it called, different to a lot of other people. And I do a lot of silly things.
yeah.
And maybe I'm a bit more honest than other people or a bit more of a dickhead. I don't know. Depends on the person you come across.
Sometimes it goes merges.
But one of the things that's been quite funny is I often get called autistic and all that. But the thing is,
Right.
where's the proof? Like, you're just making a surface level distinction what autism is. And I feel
Yeah,
that that's an insult to myself and the people who have autism. Like, like, it's, you're not taking to understand it. How are you going to know what someone is just on a surface level? Like, you're not properly researched it or try to understand it. You're just labeling someone like that without properly trying to understand it. Like I had that with a few comics say that about me, but they've never even taken on to understand whether it's true or not. But like that's what, and it's a bit like, why are you using it as an insult? It's just what someone is. What is an insult is if you're a wanker and if you're a cunt and a waste of space, and that's what you are by perpetuating that. Now it's just what someone has. Doesn't mean anything. I've had that a few times on the circuit. I've had that a few times in sort of life. People call you autistic, but you know, there's different people. There's different ways of describing it as well. People get this some. Oh, you're a smart person with autism, but you're socially awkward, or you're an incredibly stupid person. But there's a lot more to it than that, and you've never taken
yeah,
the problem to understand it. And as someone that has autism, you must get, like, when you're growing up, people misunderstood it, and kids, they're completely in dispassionate. Now, even to being an adult, you must get loads of misinterpretations of autism and people saying all sorts of things.
yeah. Do you know what? I think you really hit the nail on the head there. I think there's so many misconceptions, and I'm trying to write a set that has a lens that, because what I want to do on stage, I want to take the stereotypes about autism and try and turn them on their head. That is the whole point to my act. Um, but I've had people question whether I'm actually autistic because I'm very confident and because I'm quite extroverted. But the thing is, you get the more introverted autistic types, and you do get the more extroverted. The problem with me is I don't have an off switch. and that sometimes bothers people. Whereas there are autistic people that when you try and have conversations with them, it's like getting blood out of a stone. So the autism, the spectrum is just massive, and as you said, Marvin, to generalize like that and to assume you're autistic and it be a bad thing is, yeah, it pisses me off. Like, it's from the way you describe it, it sounded like they use that as an insult. Oh, he's obviously
Yeah, yes,
autistic.
yes, yes, yes.
What, I mean, what is that even about? Like, I don't understand it. I've never understood that. But yeah, or like the thing is, that's why I'm very open. And I go, what? I'm autistic. Here I am. This is me. This is what how my autism presents itself. And then people are like, oh, I would never have said you're autistic had you not mentioned it. And although saying that, there was a gig a couple of nights ago, and I said to this woman in the crowd, if I hadn't mentioned my autism, or were you surprised that I said I was autistic? And complete silence. And she just went, no. And everyone was in hysterics. I was like, oh, you could tell, could you? You could tell. I mean, she ended up being a psychology student. So,
Oh,
of course,
fair
she could
enough. Yes,
tell.
yes, yes.
So, she could read that. But yeah, like, I'm a bit quirky, but extroverted, non-stop speaking, obsessions over things. And yeah, I like the sound of my own voice. I'm not going to lie. That's why comedy and autism have more things in common. And actually, Joe Wells does an amazing bit on this. As I think about what comedy is, you're talking about yourself for 5 minutes, 10 minutes straight about particular interest. And it's a one-way conversation. And then when someone heckles you, you're told to be really socially inappropriate to them. What's more autistic than that? And I just thought that's such a brilliant way of putting it. Like, so Joe Wells is one of my favourite acts on the circuit, and he does a lot to try and dispel the myths around autism as well. So he had, yeah, another autistic act. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it's wrong. I think you shouldn't stereotype or pigeonhole us. You shouldn't be like, well, he's autistic and he's not, and he's autistic and he's not. Like, that's awful. Like, that's awful to do. It's just, okay, are they a good act or not? That's literally the only question you should ever ask yourself. Ever ask, if you see an act, are they a good act / promoter or MC? That's all you should really, and are they a decent person, really? And everything else, I don't define myself by my autism. I mention it because I like talking about it. Because I used to be embarrassed about autism, but I used to go, no, I'm too smart to be autistic. And actually, a lot of autistic people are very smart. And I used to be ashamed of it, but now I'm like, no, I talk openly about it. I don't care. It doesn't define me, but it does explain some of my quirks. But it doesn't give you the excuse to be a dick. I'm not going to name names in here because actually this act I'm talking about in particular has got better. But this act in particular, he used to perform, anytime he used to have a go at the audience and it not go well, he used to blame his autism. He's like, I'm autistic, and start getting upset about it. You can't judge me. You can't do this. I can say what I want. I'm autistic. Or I didn't mean to say that. I'm autistic. It doesn't give you license to be a prick. And I remember calling him out on that a few times. And luckily, I'm not going to say who it is. It's not fair on the person because he has actually learned from that. But I've known people who use autism as an excuse to be an arsehole. No, you're an arsehole. You're not an arsehole. Autism doesn't come into it. Like, I'm sorry, it doesn't.
And I know who it is, but we'll say who it is afterwards.
Yeah,
They
we'll
just
say who it is. I think you'll know who it is. I think every comedian will know who this is. But yeah, we'll talk about this afterwards. But yeah, he's actually got a lot better. The person in question, I will just say that. Yeah, he came up to me and apologised to me a few months ago about he was going through some stuff and he's working on himself at the moment, which is great. I don't write people off. Like, people can get better, people can improve, and we all make mistakes.
I think if people apologize, that's the main thing. Yeah.
Exactly. If you acknowledge your mistakes, then great. Then you move on from it. But yeah,
One of, so for someone that's listening in now and they want to, that autism is very sort of diverse thing and it's hard to sort of put it in one thing. But for people to get a proper understanding of what it is, so they don't get into stupid things like they often do when you say autism, what
yeah.
is something you would say for people to go around that in terms of what autism is? It's
Well,
hard
to
to
try and
pigeonhole
sum
it. You don't
up,
want to pigeonhole it, but for people not to
to
get
try and
stupid
sum up
ideas in it.
autism,
Yeah.
it is. Oh, so I want to say this without being offending other autistic people. By the way, my definition of autism might be a bit different to others, but I would say it is a social impairment. It means you sometimes struggle to socially communicate with others. Um, but it also means that you have a fantastic focus. You have a brilliant focus on things and of subjects, um, and you often have very good knowledge, not of everything, but of it, your particular interests. Um, yeah, it also means you can be a very caring person. A lot of people assume people with autism are not caring. We're actually what's called over empathetic, as in we feel other people's pain more than others will because we find that hard to process. Oh my God, it's so overwhelming. We actually feel it a lot as autistic people, but we sometimes find it hard to process things. I think that's what I would say. We find it, there's a delayed reaction in the way we process things. But when we do understand something, we understand it more than others. I'm not sure if that makes sense. It's quite I'm trying to make it as broad as I can for the listeners out there. So really, social impairment, sometimes you struggle with people, but once you understand what's going on, you understand it more than anyone. So once we do pick things up, we're on it like that.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's just for, because this it's completely misunderstood by a lot of people, and they make
Yeah.
such stupid generalizations, and that's not true. And I wanted to see from your side what it is, because
We're,
you understand it.
we're not all train spotters that are in our rooms rocking back and forth or anything like that, making flapping noises or anything. We're not that, this is what I mean. It's, but yeah,
What um what do you what do you think? But with though it may have some faults, autism, as you said, it gives you better focus. So that as a
yes,
result, it's made you maybe a better joke writer than you would have been had you not had it. Maybe.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, so what was it? Was that the question?
No, I'm just a statement. I'm saying like because even though you have autism or whatever, it
Yeah,
has helped you a lot in other aspects of your life, even though there's problems as well.
yeah, because when we autistics try to problem solve something, we go really in depth in it and go, okay, well, this is the problem. We're going to really focus on solving it. And we do, and same with joke writing as well. We go into the details of the joke, or we'll listen in for the laughter of our recorded sets. What was it about that joke that no one liked? Or did I miss the punchline by a beat or something like that? Yeah, it gives us a super drive and a super focus as well on things in particular. That's why, like for instance, I put a lot of effort into promoting my nights, and I promote every act on there, and I try and get people down to my nights, and I'll be always on social media doing it. You'll see me, but it's because I have that focus on what I know makes a good night. But yeah, no, the focus can really help. Um, but sometimes it means that when we're super focused on one thing, we are not focused on things like our personal lives. And that's sometimes a balance I have to try and find. Like, that's why sometimes I take a step back from the comedy, not because I don't enjoy it, because I need to focus on my, say, relationship, or I need to focus on my family, or I need to focus on, I don't know, my finances, or things like that, things that everyday life that people do. sometimes when I'm too hyper focused on one thing, it means I stop worrying about the other things, and I should learn to try and. That's the problem with autism. It's that hyper focus on one thing, and okay, we can't fit everything in our heads. Whereas a lot of people seem to manage that, and us autistics struggle with that. Does that make sense? It's
Yeah.
like this hyper narrow focus sometimes.
No. Okay. No, that's great, clear. That's very sort of precise. So.
Shit, it's very autistic.
Wait. No, no.
No, it's true. I gave you a very autistic definition of autism. I mean, that's very meta.
Now, so next three questions on like what are things on like the comedy circuit that you'd like to change that is realistic, that isn't idealistic, that you think could be changed?
I think the comedy circuit could do with being a little less cliquey. And again, I'm not going to talk about any nights or promoters in particular, but I do sometimes feel like there's a habit of people just booking their mates all the time. And I see it, up and down the country. And I think that's something that realistically can change. Like, I'm not saying that it means I should be expected to be booked on to every bill in the country or anything like that. But I think what I am saying is I think promoters need to be wary of not just booking their mates all the time or booking the same people all the time. And I think you're actually quite good at doing that because I do your gig once every good few months, and that's good because it means you have a diverse lineup every time. You have different lineup every time, and that's how it should be.
Thank you.
But I do think promoters need to just be wary of that because I think you fall into the trap of just booking your mates all the time, and that's not a good thing. Like people develop cliques because you build relationships in comedy, and that's a good thing. But you can't let that. You can't then go, oh, because he's my best mate, I'll give him this spot, because then you fall into all sorts of weird things. So I think that definitely needs to change.
And that will have an effect on comedy in a way. I mean, effectively, what you said there is comedians are performing cronyism.
Yeah, no, there is nepotism in comedy. There absolutely is. And anyone who says they're not is lying to you. Or if anyone says that's not, it's either lying or is so socially unaware of it, because it does happen, and I'm sorry, it really does, and I notice it all the time. Like I don't mention names, I don't start having a go at those people, but I just make a note. I just go, okay, well, I've noticed this about particular acts or particular nights or particular bills. I've just noticed. I make note of it. I go, okay, well, I've applied for that night for however many times. And it's not me being bitter about not getting on tonight, because then I know friends who've applied for certain nights that no one can seem to get onto apart from certain people. And it's that it just creates a very closed off thing, and that's not good for the comedy scene. To make the comedy scene better, you need to be more open. I think all nights could do with that, every night included. Just be more open with it and give new acts more opportunities to progress, because that's what I feel's often lacking as well. It's so hard to progress on any night, really, because as well, you book in a certain amount of acts every day or every week or every month, and it's really hard. And there's so many comics on the circuit right now. There's so many. It's very overly congested, but it still doesn't mean you should ignore acts who are just starting out, because they're the ones that need to be pushed up the most as well.
Hmm.
I mean, obviously, if they're not great, don't book them. I'm not saying just.
Yes, yes.
I'm not saying give new acts the headline spots or anything like that. I'm not saying book them for the sake of them being a new act. But if you can see they're working their craft, if they're putting in a shift, And it just if they just say have one bad gig at your night, it doesn't mean they're a terrible act. It just means they've had one bad gig. But if you could see acts that are working their absolute nuts off, then just make note of that and go, okay, well, there's an act who's working the circuit well, and they deserve opportunities. But yeah, so that's what I would say. In the nutshell, it's just more opportunities for more people. But it's easier said than done, isn't it? I think nights need to work together to because we share information about bad acts. That's what I've noticed. Not promoters will share information about acts that are a bit no, don't book that. But we don't often share information about acts that you need to. Oh yeah, we should book. Every now and then you will. Every now and then I notice people will, but there's a lot of like, as well as cliques, there's a lot of infighting going on with. I don't know. I just noticed a lot of negativity, and I know comedy is competitive anyway, but I think we're all in the same boat at the end of the day, and we just need to support each other, not to make judgments so easily. Like, or rumours will go round about an act. Unless those rumours are substantiated, then why are you trying to ruin that act's reputation for the sake of it? But obviously, if rumours about certain acts are true, then yeah, of course you can badmouth them. But yeah, it's a weird. There's too much negativity, too much competitive, too much cliqueiness. It just needs to be a bit. It needs to be nicer. I think that's what I'm saying. The comedy circuit needs to be a bit nicer, less ruthless. It puts a lot of people off.
Yeah, it puts me off a few times.
It's true. It's true. Like, I mean, I know I'm bringing it down on this, but this is the reality of a lot of nights, actually.
You've basically described Hollywood.
Yeah. I mean, you'd be surprised. I mean, yeah, the comedy scene is very much like that in a lot of ways. I mean, except without the money. Well, it depends on the night, actually, I would say. But without the big bucks. But yeah, no, it could be very Hollywoody, actually, I think.
Comedy Store isn't too bad. I hear that they paid £250. Well, no, what am I doing? No, but
No, comedy. No. This is what I mean. I'm not saying any particular night needs to. I'm not shitting on all nights. The Comedy Store's brilliant. I love it. I've got a lot of time for Comedy Store. But I'm just saying every night needs to, like, what I've noticed about the Comedy Store as well. For the longest time, their lineups would be diverse, but actually the last 3-4 years, their lineups are very diverse, and there's a lot more women on their bills now, and it's brilliant. So things are getting better. I mean, things in comedy are getting better. The lineups are more diverse, but I think we've got to stop closing ourselves off to people that we know. We need to just, yeah.
it's like becoming factions and all that. You mean?
Yeah, that's what comedy is often like political factions. If you look at like the Labour Party or the Tory Party, it's different political factions. The same with comedy. It's different factions. He said, I don't like this. I'm more of this. I'm pro cancel culture. I'm anti cancel culture. And actually, sometimes it's way more nuanced than we like to think. The pro and anti the cancel culture debate is too like black and white. It's more nuanced cancel culture. Some people are genuinely cancelled, or some people are not genuinely cancelled. But sometimes it's no. They had, they were told off for not told off, but there were consequences to what they said. But it doesn't mean you should write them off totally, because if they then try to make amends, then okay, you don't write anyone off, in my view. But yeah, so it's more nuanced as well. So yeah, but it can be very factional. You get too many yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, but one thing that's definitely true. Me and you definitely have people that we don't like in the circuit. I think there's always going to be that.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine, and I get it. No, but there are certain people that warrant that if you try and give them the benefit of the doubt, and you try and give them chances and opportunities, but then they just don't. They make things worse for themselves, and yeah, absolutely, it turns you off them. And you go, no, I don't want to. I don't want to know an act like that who doubles down on their actions. You know, like
The thing is, right, with that, I used to have the attitude where, if someone's a piece of filth, or no, I'm not the judge and jury. If I feel that they're a bit of a scumbag and not a nice person, I always get rid of them completely. But my attitude towards that is changing a bit, because there's always going to be arseholes, there's always going to be scumbags, there's always going to be bad people. You and me both have dark traits in itself. The only way to handle cunts is to be around them, and then you learn how to deal with them. Then it doesn't affect you so much, and then it doesn't bother you so much, and then you can just, how to navigate around it, and you work it. It is good to have everyone cool, but that's just not the way it's going to be. You have to deal with wankers here and there. That's the
oh
way it
god,
is.
yeah. But this is what I mean. But this is what I mean with comedy becoming too factional, becoming too cliquey. We'll corner ourselves into particular acts, and we won't let in other acts as we disagree with their views, like say political views. And I don't think that's right. I think as long as, well, you might be a cunt, but you might be a cunt in the way you do your jokes, for instance, and you might be no, but you might be like uber right wing or whatever. But if you treat a night with respect and you treat the other acts on the bill with respect, in my view, it doesn't matter too much about your joke. I mean, if your jokes are overtly Jim Davidson like, then it becomes a bit of a problem because a lot of the audience will be turned off by that because we've moved on from that. But like, if you're a bit near the knuckle, bit right wing, but you treat the night with respect and other acts with respect, then fine, in my view. Honestly,
It's a
that's
very
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. No, no, no. Carry on. You were about to finish.
It's about respect basically. As long as we learn to respect each other, the audience, and everything like that, then yeah, treat the night as a job or whatever, and respect everyone there. And if you're making other acts uncomfortable and not safe, and you're making the audience feel that way, then there's a problem. I'm sorry, but there is. But if you're not like that, if you go and do your jokes and they're quite controversial jokes, but the audience like it, I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. Like, if you treat the acts and audience with respect, then that's the main thing for me.
Effectively, just treat your workspace like you would treat your office. Make it a more. You may not like this person, you may not like this person, but at least make it more comfortable for everyone involved. At least make
Exactly.
it be nice and get on with the job, and make it more pleasant so that everyone's in a better place, and be professional.
Yeah, be professional. And the amount of acts are not like that. They'll just throw their toys out the pram for silly little reasons. It's like, well, no. But also at the same time, as a promoter, I'm very wary as well. Like, I know some promoters are stricter than I am. Like, if an actor's running late, other promoters will go, "No, you're late. Oh, I'm not booking you again." Blah blah blah. But if something has happened, the reason you're running late, or then you need to be a bit more understanding of that. Or like I've been on the receiving end of it, and I, as a promoter, if you're an actor that's constantly cancelling on me, I'm not going to want to book you because you're not reliable. However, if you make one fuck up and you either forget to come to the gig or have double booked by mistake, or you ran ridiculously late to the gig, I'll give you a couple of charts. Like there's the rule of three with jokes and rule of three with acts as well. For me, if you're cancelling or really late, like more than three times, whatever, then I'm not going to book you. Why would I? Because I need someone reliable that can be there. But acts make mistakes as well. I think as promoters, we need to recognise that as well, that life gets in the way and life happens. And I like to think I'm quite flexible as a promoter. And that's as an act, if you cancel me, but you give me enough notice to book another act, then that's okay.
Yeah. Now these are good things. Just saying, and I think one of the things is though we can only have power over ourselves. I mean, we can't really control other people. So it's the thing that we should. It's difficult thing, easier said than done. But the thing is, you can't control other people or what they are. They don't have the same values as you. Um, just don't be offended. Just try not to be offended or too emotional by it, and just you can't control it. It's just the way it is with life. The only things you can't. There's only certain things you can control. Focus on that. The yeah. And when you said with a lot of things there, comedy. You're dealing with a lot of people that have huge egos. Same with acting. The people in there have huge egos. They have egos about the size of Mount Everest in comedy or acting.
Oh God,
And
yeah,
if you point out that they're wrong or different things or this that, it's got to be delicate, man, because like they're so fixated on what they believe. If you damage their ego, they'll go out to try and destroy you. They're what's it called? And they'll, as you say, double down on that. They'll keep going in that because there's such big egos in that. I am this. I am correct. There's no possible way that could be wrong, and you can't change that. Some people are like a lost cause. There's nothing you can do. It's just the
yeah,
way it is.
yeah. It's true. It's true. Some people are like that, or if I've had acts where they want to perform, it won't go well, and they'll ask me why they'll ask me, oh, why were the audience like that? And I'll go, well, maybe it's because you said this, for instance. Um, like there was this one act who made a joke about fucking Thatcher's dead corpse, right? And
Ooh.
yeah, and they said to me beforehand, I've got a joke about that. Do you think that will be funny? And I went, well, it depends how you say it. But if I were you, I'd maybe avoid that. Like just fucking dead corpse, joking about fucking dead corpses. Unless you're Frankie Boyle and you know how to operate that type of joke, then and this was a newer act as well. I was like, maybe just leave that the first time you're performing here, just maybe leave it. And if you want to help work on it, I can help you with that. And then they still ended up doing the joke, and then the audience turned on them, and then they got pissed off and walked off early. And I was like, I did say, I did say to you not to do that joke. Oh, I gave you advice. I mean, at the end of the day, again, you can't force an act to do something they don't want to do. But if they come to you and go, look, I've got this joke, do you think you'll be right? I'm like, it's risky. It can go either way. I'm not going to say to you, don't do it. But I'm saying, actually, this type of room might not appreciate that. And that's exactly what happened. I hate to say, oh, I'm right. But I was like, they did give you the benefit of the doubt. And then they came back and did another spot at my night and they did the same thing. And it's like, well, how can I help you if you're not going to learn from that? And then I had feedback from other promoters that this act would do the same type of jokes like that and it would never go well. But they were so intent on doing those types of jokes. It's like, you need to learn to take advice. Believe me, I've been there. I'm not saying I'm innocent in all this. I'm not saying I'm the perfect comic. No one is. I've made jokes that I absolutely love, but I know audience hate. And I've had to get rid of them because I know the audience do not appreciate those jokes. It's just like, this is the way it is. But
Yeah.
as it's actually, you've got to be delicate with the acts, but at the same time, if the acts are never listening to anyone, never taking anyone's advice, then they're not going to grow as a comic.
No, I think in terms sometimes when I've received harsh but truthful criticism, in that moment wasn't able to deal with it. But I would have to have a kid. It would takes a couple of days for me to process it and then to figure it out. But in the moment, it's better just to leave it alone because it's emotional and it hurts and it's upsetting.
Yeah, of course.
But when you've thought about things like you've done something wrong or you've done that, then you're able to sort it out. But yeah, it's just something you can't control. Um, yeah,
But yeah, what I won't do, I won't go up to an actor and go, okay, I know why your set went bad. But if an actor asks me why I thought their set went bad, I'll be honest with them. But also at the same time, what I find really difficult is if when I do well and another act doesn't do so well, and they go, "Oh, that was a great set, mate." I'm not going to say it back because I didn't think their set went well. But I'm not going to say, "Oh, your set went shit." I'm like, "Oh yeah, thank you," but I won't say it back. Vice versa, I've noticed the same thing. I won't do so well, and another act will do brilliant. I'll say to that act, "That was a great set." They won't necessarily say it back to me because actually my set wasn't that great. But they won't go, "You're shit," because that's being a dick. But yeah, I can't. I'm not going to tell an act their set was great if it really wasn't.
Yeah.
So I think there needs to be a bit, not total brutal honesty, but a bit, and you need to be delicate, as say, acts have egos. But you need, if they ask you your opinion, then you give it. I think you do. I've always gone with honesty. It's not going to help an act if you're not, if they ask for your opinion and you're not honest with them.
Yes, it's always a difficult thing. But I mean, you're dealing in acting, comedy, and also music. You're dealing with narcissists, and when you're looking at what's it called, and I've done a bit of research on it. When a lot of advice when they say you're dealing with narcissists or having them in your life, most advice is you're not going to change the fucker. Move away. And we're in an industry where it's filled with it, so people probably should have mixed with any of us. No, I don't know. It's. I'll be honest. I've probably I did a bit of research in this. I do have a bit of it, but I did find with a bit of researching, my level of narcissism isn't as bad as I thought it was, but it is to a degree, and I'm aware
Oh,
of
of
that,
course.
and I want
Oh,
I want to manage it.
oh, of course. Like, believe me, I will take criticism as well as the next person. Like, I did a roast battle with Joe Murphy. I mean, Joe Murphy is the king of. He's the king of roast battles, by the way. Like, absolutely brilliant. The judges, and he said my roasts were good, but they were a bit too wordy. It took a while to get to the actual joke. And I saw that they were like, they're clever jokes, but it was a bit too wordy for the insult. And I'm like, fair enough, I will go back and learn. But I have a start to my set, I'm not going to reveal it to people. I have a start to my set that every promoter likes apart from one. And they'll go, "No, that bit you do is outdated, Mark, and it doesn't work." And I, well, maybe other promoter likes it. So like sometimes I won't, if I get constant feedback that a joke is not working, then I'll take it. But if I have one person telling me a joke doesn't work and everyone else liking that, then I'm going to go with the majority. Like,
Yeah,
so I think that's how you balance the narcissism, because you do need to be confident in what you're doing as well. You can't, if one promoter says to you, "No, they were bad jokes," but if no other promoter said that to you, then you've got to go with the hindsight. They're good jokes. It was a bad gig,
hmm.
because that can happen as well. You can have the perfect set in terms of jokes, but it could be the performance was off.
Yeah. It can be just yeah, and not everyone's gonna like you. It's just the way it is. Like with people, not everyone likes you. Not, but yeah, it's the way it is.
Yeah, it's the way it is. Absolutely.
Now, with the biggest thing, like, it's been great to have a chat with you, Mark. What's what's been the hardest? What's been a challenging, upsetting time that was very weird that you look at now and you think is funny, and that has taught you the most?
Oh wow. See, I've been rabbiting non-stop this podcast, but this has made me a bit speechless. This one. This is a difficult one. Something that's hit me the hardest, but when I look back on was really funny.
Yeah,
Um,
like a painful experience that you laugh like painful that experience where you look at that was bloody weird, but very and you laugh at it. That's funny. Ah, bloody hell! And I've learned so much from it.
oh, um, oh dear, like, well, actually, this is a I would say this is a comedy experience. Um, I I I opened a gig just after lockdown, and it went horribly, like really bad. No laugh. And when I say no laugh, maybe one person laughed. And then there was this woman in the front row, arms folded, arms folded and expressionless. And I said to her, God, you look very emotionless. Maybe you have autism as well. So but you know what I mean? I was feeling that shit on stage. I was taking it out on the audience member, and it got boos. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to leave you with this. And I left her with a joke, and I just pissed off. And afterwards, it was horrible. And the next act that went on stage just had to work their ass off to win the move back. And that was awful for me. But do you know what was I think what was really funny about that is the way I doubled down and the way I just started insulting the audience. I look back as when I say it's funny, I mean, oh my God, what a stupid dick I was. That was funny. And it was because it was one gig. I'm not going to see those people again. And it was bloody hilarious. And I got material out of it because I did, because there was this one person, he literally said, oh, I wish he would just end this. Like, literally shouted it out during the gig. And I went, well, that's the worst thing to hear when you're on hold to the Samaritans. Like, so I make a joke of it, but I felt horrible that night. I just went home and I was just so, I'm giving up comedy. That's it. I've come after lockdown. That is it. That's the worst. But actually, I look back and that was bloody hilarious. The audience hated it. I hated it. I was insulting the audience, and someone gave me a great joke to work with. I look back and laugh at that about how bad that was. And actually, sometimes you do have to find the funny. So it was funny. I was opening a gig for the first time. That gig had been running in a couple of years, and I just almost destroyed that gig in 10 minutes. So I think that was hilarious, really, because it was like I knew what I was doing, I knew how it was going, yet I just still decided to make it worse. But I've learned a lot from it. I've learned not to do that. You know, if suddenly the audience are turning against me, what I try and do is just finish with a few light-hearted jokes and just walk off stage. What I don't do is double down and go after the audience, which is what I did. I was like, I accused everyone who wasn't laughing of being autistic, which goes against everything I believe about autism, because us autistics have a very good sense of humour. But I was feeling so shit in that moment. I was just going after everyone. I was like, I'm the comic I despise the most. I'll look back on that and go, yeah, that was a really low point for me. But I've learned a lot from it. I look back, it was funny because of how bad it was. Do you know when someone's doing so badly, it is actually quite funny. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
not saying you've ever seen that. It's actually like this is horrendous. There was a gig I was at where an act was performing so badly. My mate took a picture, and it was just me behind this act, just head in my hands like this. And it was on camera as well. So when the photos were going around of this gig and this act performing, it was just me doing this behind them. But then a few months later, was the other way around. I was that act, and the audience were like this. So it all goes in cycles. Comedy goes in cycles. When you think you're seeing a bad act on stage, that will happen to you, and you have to find the funnies in it. Otherwise, you won't cope. Like if you have a bad gig and you're constantly deluging into, if you're constantly focused on that bad gig, it will get you down, and you just got to move on and find the funnies. Go, yes, I was terrible that night. That was shit, but it was fucking hilarious because of how bad I was. Does that make sense? I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, that's brilliant. I've shared that as well. I know exactly what you mean. But
Yeah,
yeah, definitely. You're only one gig away from a bad gig.
yeah,
And yeah, I know what you mean. I've seen you laugh because of awkwardness, and it's like, oh bloody hell, what's this?
yeah.
But now,
No, it's mad.
now, for anyone that's listening right now, how do they find out about you, Mark?
So you can follow me, not in the streets, that's illegal or it's frowned upon. You can follow me on Twitter, mnicholascomic, Instagram at marknicholas9690, Mark Nicholas stand-up comedian on Facebook. I also run a night called Laugh Able. So search that on Facebook, and Laughable 9690 on Twitter, and no, Laughable 9690 on Insta, and Laughable 1990 on Twitter. And that is how you can follow everything I'm doing at the moment. But yeah.
Right. Well, you know where to go to find out about Mark. If you've liked this episode, give it a 5-star review on Amazon or iTunes. Share it with your friends.
And I'll see you at the next episode. Have a nice day.